Hi everybody. Well, it's actually November 2nd. I got my hot tea. It could be June 2nd. I still have my hot tea, so the date doesn't really have any effect on drinking hot tea for me, green tea. But what we're doing now, we're finishing up. We'll probably have another week left based on weather. We're enhancing gardens. And what we're doing, we're putting a small garden within the big garden. It's very difficult to take out two plants and put two smaller plants in, because the garden will overwhelm those two or three small plants. So you have to put, I call it a small garden within a big garden. And this area right here, you see, this was one plant planted in 1997, Persicaria polymorpha. It got quite large, has beautiful white flowers in June, but it took up this whole area. So there was nothing more I could put in there. And in the spring, it was quite empty because as the plant was emerging, but it filled in quickly because it did flower by June. So we took that out. There's still a remnant piece in the stone wall. We'll leave that and keep an eye on it. And what we filled it in with was much more diversity in smaller groups. But yet the smaller groups, there's 3 to 4 plants to 5 plants per group packed closer together, so it fills in, it appears to fill in quicker. So I've got Calamagrostis Carl Forster. In between that, I've got a Pycnanthemum incanum. I have Phlox dixter, which is a beautiful blue, Phlox dixter. And behind that is another Pycnanthemum incanum. In front of that, I'm trying Petrina gibbosa. I've tried it before, but it hadn't done too well. It was probably back in the 90s, I think I had it. So I'm growing it again. It's Petrina gibbosa. And I have Calamirus blue star, kind of drifting a linear drift, and mingled in, I have Phlox fashionably early lavender ice. It has a beautiful lavender white blue flower. And then geranium Mrs. Kendall Clark. I have 4 geranium Mrs. Kendall Clark. And that finishes up this front planting. That ties into the astrantia that's here. I have a group of astrantia. And then there's a Carex remota, a couple of groups of Carex right on the edge. You'll see that here. So we'll see how that does next year. It's three groupings. The Carl Forster will give me the height, and the plant behind that, the one that was in the rocks, the Persicaria polymorpha, that'll arch on top of the Calamagrostis Carl Forster. So it's nice interplay between the plants, one plant supporting the other. And then we'll look at their growth rate and growth habit as they mature. And I think everything should come up fairly uniformly without having to do much pruning, so that the plants can all share light energy to become adults. So let's move on to another area that we're working on, and it planted, I think, just a few days ago. All right, here we go. Well, we walked over to another area. This is actually planted. It doesn't look like it does. We have it covered, surrounded by leaf mulch. But you see the cutback plant back there, that was Amsonia Northwind. So we've cut it back so the foliage wasn't leaning into our planting process. So it's going to be quite big. We took out 3 of them in here. This was a wall of Amsonia Northwind, this high. It was just too much, and it's been there 15 years. So I thought, you know what, let's take out the 3. We'll leave the one in the back. We can arch over the plants we put in. And basically it's two plants. It's 2 plants mingled together. It's Penstemon Dark Towers, and I'm putting 2 together to make one because I need to keep the garden in scale with the more mature plants. So I put 2 gallons together. Dark Towers mingled in with Galenia trifoliata. So both will have the same growth rate. One is a little more mounding, the Penstemon is more vertical, but they'll grow together at the same time. Next year the Penstemon will be higher than the Galenia, not by much, but probably next year will be a foot or so higher at bloom time in June for both of them. The Galenia will catch up the 3rd year. The Galenia will catch up to the Penstemon Dark Towers, and it'll look like a nice even grouping. And I have it over here already. You can see the Dark Towers here. So I just extended the mix in a bigger sweep to get into the Molinia. That'll come up later with the Phlox, Gina. And then the Amsonia will be in bloom when these 2 plants are in bloom also. So this will tie this area together. The Hacknacloa will come up. That'll be just slightly arching at the time of bloom. And then we'll have euchras and echinacea starting to flower, so it should have a nice crisp relationship. It was just too much Amsonia. And you just know what, you get to it when you get to it, because it wasn't anything bad. It wasn't something, boy, you got to fix that right away. It was just an emotional change in the garden. We'll go to one more area. Well, we walked over to one more newly, it's renovated area, let's say enhanced area. This is Sanguisorba parviflora. Gets quite tall, and there's 1, 2, 3 in here, and it was surrounded by Aster umbellatus. The Aster umbellatus seeded in, a few more seeded. It was quite tall too, and they were falling over. And again, it wasn't that bad a look because they were actually supporting each other. It just, again, it was emotional change. I left the Sanguisorba, we took out the Aster umbellatus, and I put in Eupatorium maculatum, one here and one behind it. So the Eupatorium will have a more red, flat flower, reddish purple, and that'll be quite a little lower, about maybe 4.5 feet tall. And the parviflora will have these arching seed heads dangling over them. I mixed in some Lilium casablanca white through here. That will flower as the foliage of the Eupatorium is about 3 feet tall. It'll be just above the foliage of the Eupatorium. And also mixed in a very nice Coreopsis verticillata called Electric Avenue. It has a little bit darker foliage than the species verticillata, and the flowers are more yellow than golden yellow, so it's a little more buttery yellow. And then in the back I just put some Deschampsia goldtout to just fill in under the tree. And then behind that I put Aster Little Carlo. It's Aster, I think, cortifolius, and it's slightly shorter, but it's still going to get 3.5 to 40 inches tall, so you'll see that over the Deschampsia when it blooms. And then I have Molinia Crystal, I think it's Crystal Veil, a selection you can get from Hoffman, John Hoffman Ornamental Grasses. It's a selection made by Pete Outoff. It's a very nice Molinia, and I've had it now, I think John sent me something, for about 4 years. You can see the pheasant, you hear the pheasant hunters in the West Field. They're actively shooting pheasant that they have to kick in the ass to get them off the ground to shoot them, which doesn't seem like hunting to me, but I guess they're from Illinois, so that's how you do it if you're from Illinois. Anyway, that should be cut out of this.
No way.
Okay. Anyway, back to the gardening. Crystal Veil is a very nice plant. John Hoffman has it. And in the back I put Aster Twilight, and we just had a nice group of that in the back in front of the Carengiosoma coreana, and that goes into heavier shaded planting. So I think it'll work out nicely. You have 3 stages of plants: Coreopsis, Eupatorium, Sanguisorba, Deschampsia in the back with the Aster for a late September color, soft blue. Okay, that's it. Thanks.